Now welcome to the stage Sean Passmore, who will be moderating the panel discussion sponsored by Wells Fargo around investing in military-connected employees.
Well, good morning, everybody. Your perspective is such a powerful message. I just want to thank Jason for sharing that story with us. We're going to shift gears a little bit this morning. Have an outstanding group of panelists for you today, and I just can't wait for you to meet them. They're going to introduce themselves here in a minute. My name's Sean Passmore. I lead a team at Wells Fargo called Military Talent Strategic Sourcing Team. It's a 30-person team, 100% dedicated to attracting and recruiting and coaching and advocating for hiring, onboarding, engaging, and retaining veterans. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those investments today. During this discussion, we're going to explore ideas around military-connected employees. But before we dive into that, I'm going to ask our panelists to just quickly introduce yourselves, please. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ricky Darian. I know I talked to a few of you yesterday. I live here in Washington, D.C. and Alexandria, Virginia. Currently, I work for a company called Metronome. It's a GovTech company, and we work in the government contracting space. I'm a talent director for them, and I build the recruiting team and staff the DoD with people and solutions, mainly IT. Prior to that, I worked for Bass Pro Shops for a year, and in that role, I was creating their military programs for the whole organization. There's about 30,000 employees, almost 4,000 veterans, so I helped build Bass Pro Shops military recruiting throughout the whole suite of their businesses. Prior to that, I was with Amazon as a director for staffing the state of Virginia, and then I worked for CVS as a director for 5 years, and then I spent 15 years in the military, deployed 6 times, was a Ranger and Special Forces, and spent most of my time in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Good morning, Kate again. My paid job is I'm a managing director at Blackstone. I lead talent for all of our private equity funds, which is building management teams aligned to the value at stake. Prior to Blackstone, I have led Apollo's Veterans Initiative. I led UBS's Veterans Initiative. And early part of my career, I served in the U.S. Army as a military police officer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christy Colpo. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. I work for Peraton as a military and veteran recruiting strategist alongside 2 other veterans, Jeff Carson and Brian Acton. I think a lot of people are familiar with Jeff and Brian already. Peraton is a large defense contracting firm. We specialize in space, intelligence, cyber, IT, defense, citizen security, and health. On the military side, I'm a Navy Commander 05. I've served for just over 20 years, specialization in oceanography. I'm currently attached to U.S. AFRICOM headquarters as a staff officer on the reserve side. I'm just so excited to be here with you all. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with the military. That really helps us to get better as a team, get better at what we do. And so I'm just looking forward to being able to share some of my experiences with you as well and learning from the other panelists. Thank you so much.
So before we jump into the questions, I want to frame the topic to look at the conversation through 2 lenses. One, when we're talking about investing in employees, I want to compare that to how we're investing in job seekers, right? For example, are the time and money and resources, our investments that we're putting into programs to attract and recruit talent, how do those compare to the investments we're making to engage and retain current employees? The second lens that I've asked the group to look through is comparing investment to extraction. For example, the extraction mindset recognizes the tremendous value in veteran talent, seeks to extract that from their community, and then plug it into our organizations where it adds the most value, where we get the most ROI. Versus the investment mindset, again, recognizes tremendous value in the veteran community and then seeks to invest in that community so that its members may thrive where they want, when they want, and how they want. And so we're going to look at it through those two lenses. And look, one of these is not necessarily better than the other. One's not right and one's not wrong. In fact, I would say that a mature, robust military talent strategy has a little bit of all of this. It has some extraction, it has some investment. It is focusing some on candidates and also in some on your employees. So we're gonna explore this idea. As you're listening to the panelists share their best practices and give examples, I would encourage you to form ideas about, are there any of these things that you can take back to your organization and implement them in a way that makes sense for your organization based on your size, your culture, your mission? What are you actually trying to achieve? And so that's the takeaway for you guys. We're going to start with Christy. But Christy, before I ask you a question, we're going to do a practical exercise. So show of hands for veterans or spouses of veterans, if you or your veteran spouse had a seamless, exactly as you planned it, transition. And you guys can play too if you want. Anyone? No one? That's not at all surprising. And I think that's why our jobs are so important. So Christy, it's very easy to be passionate about the work that we do, but not all of us are driven by the same things. So can you share with us, what is your why, and how has your personal experience shaped the way you feel about investing in military-connected talent?
Sure, thank you. This is a big question. I love addressing it. I want to start off by saying, and really affirming the feelings that go along with transition. Right? All of those feelings, that can range from anxiety, feeling just generally overwhelmed, lost, confused, abandoned, forgotten, these types of feelings, right? So I want to affirm that because I think often as veterans, we try to be strong, right? And those sorts of things. And sometimes it's a little bit harder to reach out to people to get the help that we need, the support that we need to be able to network and all the things that we need to do to get our next mission set up for us, right? So my why is twofold. One is that I recognize those feelings, right? I certainly went through them myself. I transitioned off of active duty twice, and I remember that. And honestly, if I could forget them, I wouldn't want to. I think that helps us to stay sharp in what we do. It helps us to continuously learn and grow. So I want to remind myself, my team, we work together to remind ourselves of what those feelings are like for ourselves and then for the veterans that we serve, right? The second part is that I really look to, connect our veterans, right? And because we work so hard to do that, when I get a phone call, this is the second part of my why, that says, hey, Christy, because of something you said or something your team said, guess what? I landed the interview. I got the job. I got my first offer, right? So the first part of the why is that I am absolutely, I remember those feelings, right? So both the times that I transitioned. So that's the first part of the why. I can't forget them, I wouldn't want to. And the second part of the why, of course, is getting that phone call, right? And being able to celebrate with them. So keeping those two things in mind to help motivate us to do what we do.
Thanks, Christy. That's an awesome why, by the way. Yeah, I think everybody here has a why, and collectively our whys have really made an impact. And we've seen that in veteran unemployment or veteran employment. And Kate, I'm going to come to you because veteran unemployment is it's as low as it's been in a long, long time, maybe as low as it's ever been. Companies have figured out that investing in veteran talent, there's value in there. It makes their companies better. We hire veterans because they make us better. We hire veterans because they help us make money. So do you think it's more or less or equally as important to invest in our veteran-connected or veteran employees as it is to invest in them when they're job seekers?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I'll kind of bring it back to my time at Apollo when there was rally cries to hire veteran talent. And I would go into our companies who are like, we want to hire veterans. Like we understand the value of bringing in veteran talent. And I would ask them, well, why do you want to hire veterans? Who are your veterans in your organization? And why do you think that this group is so talented and we should put a stake in the ground for you to claim that this is a resource that you want to bring into your organization? And our companies didn't know who their veterans were. And I would say, I don't want you to hire another veteran until you invest in the population you have in your own organization. So for me, bringing the talent into the organization is one small piece of the work you need to do. And I think historically, we've seen, we had huge veteran unemployment, and then veteran unemployment dipped, and we had this conversation about underemployment. And to me, this was also the brainchild for CVI at AWP, because I said to Jim, you have this community model, but why don't we look at our companies as communities and understand what the veterans that we've already employed need access to? And the story I always tell, which is probably most meaningful to me, is we had a company in Las Vegas, and as Jim was going in to get to know their veteran population, he was homeless. The CEO had no idea. And within hours, AWP got him access to housing, and he had just gone through a really bad divorce. And so to me, knowing your veteran population and what they need is critically important. That is what CVI does. I think, it's one thing to bring them in. It's another thing to help retain them, get them access to what they need, understand where their value is derived. So to me, the second part is more important. I certainly have had jobs where I thought, man, I could do more than counting boxes coming off of a truck, which was literally my first job out of the military. But I am fortunate, going back to the why, to have had leaders, most of them military, who said, listen, maybe I see something in you that you don't see in yourself. Let me help you grow and succeed. So that's, to me, most important is the retention piece and getting veterans jobs analogous to their skill set.
So you're voting more important. I know you're not voting less important. Are you? I need an answer.
Both important. Both important.
Equally. You're voting equally. I'm going to try to get these two arguing.
Come back to me. I'm indifferent.
Don't you think panels that always agree are boring? If I can get these two fighting, you're going to be very entertained. So she wouldn't commit. So Ricky, based on what Kate said, I hope you disagree with her, but I'm going to ask you why. But do you think the investments in military employees is more equally or less important than the investments in what we invest to attract them and recruit them, and then why? But then also, as you're talking about that, I would love for you to share with everybody a couple examples of veteran employee investments in either your current or any of your former employers.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to argue. No, it's a dichotomy, right? And I look at it from, I've been in a lot of talent director roles, and an example that I used when I came into Bass Pro to create their military programs, one number that I always look at in all my roles is, you want to know how many people you're hiring just in general, that's a goal, but what's my retention? Because that's where I'm losing the most money. And we all know, I think right now, candidate acquisition just in general is about $5,000 to hire one person. So you're going to eat that right in the front. So if I'm continuously turning a rec or a candidate, I want to fix that in general. It's the same with the military population. So at Bass Pro, I started with, when I came in, hey, we're hiring a bunch of people. This is awesome. And I'm like, okay, let's look at retention. Let's see what that looks like. Let's look at that number. Let's dissect that and figure out where we're missing some things. And first, invest, right? We have to invest in our current population and understand our population and what they need. And in corporations, there's different levels of veterans too. You have your veterans that are just your hourly associates, right? So you have to reach them a little bit differently. And then you have veterans that are working at the corporate office. And you have to approach all of those things and how you're investing in them differently. And one of the biggest things I learned when I got out of the military and I worked for CVS was this thing called payroll, right? We don't have that in the military. If I wanted stuff done, I just called 30 soldiers and said, fill sandbags, we'll be done by the end of the day. It doesn't work like that in the corporate world. So working around like learning those processes, right? So if I'm going to invest in my hourly associates that are just my hourly veterans, we have to do that differently because anytime they work, they have to get paid. They have to be communicated differently and just tie all that together. So I think investing is definitely more important. However, if you invest the right way and do it through like CVI and do it through a nonprofit, what I love about talent acquisition and what I try to do after I figure out retention is invest and then create a pipeline that's a forever pipeline. And once I have a pipeline created, I'm going to look and see how much money am I saving the organization by doing this. So I have my veteran initiative, invest in my veterans, then I work with CVI, or currently at Metronome, I'm working with Hire Our Heroes. I'm using the Hire Our Heroes spouse employment program. I have 2 spouses working for me currently on my team, which they're going to get an offer from me and our company at the end of August, but they've been with me for 2 months, learning my business, learning the process, integrating with the team, no cost at all to my business, right? So we've already invested in that, but I get them in there, and that can be a forever pipeline for me, right? I can continuously reach out to Hire Our Heroes. Then the 2 of them are going to continuously reach out, get more veterans, more spouses. So that's free. So now I'm hiring people for free, right? Almost like my talent acquisition cost is gone. I saved the company $10,000 in hiring. Let me reinvest that into another program, another nonprofit, another thing, and then it feeds itself in this cyclic way. So investing is very good, and that extraction piece is going to happen. I guess a good example I can use where when you invest the right way, we partnered with Toyota and Dakota Myers, and I think that was with Hire Our Heroes as well, but we partnered with them and we did an event in South Carolina at one of our Bass Pro Shops. The store manager was a former Marine. He had one of our highest population of veterans in his store, so about 30% of his staff was veterans. So about 300 people, 30 were veterans, or sorry, almost 90 were veterans. And they did this raffle where any veteran in that local area that spent more than $30 got a little ticket when they made their purchase. And then they signed up for our club's membership card. They had to sign up for the membership card, all that. But the kicker was, at the end of the month, we were going to draw a ticket and give a brand new boat to the winner. Right, and this was a store manager's idea. We invested, brought it to Johnny Morris. He obviously loved it. And then the great thing is I got to fly to South Carolina, and we gave an Air Force veteran and his family, and he owned his own business. We gave him a boat and a Toyota Sequoia for his whole family. And then, so we invested in the community, invested in that person, and it was a great way to rally like all of our CRG, ERG members, veteran population, and that really feel-good story that feeds itself on that. So if you're investing in the right way, word of mouth by your own employees and the veteran population, we know that as veterans, right? If I find a veteran in an organization, you know, I'm going to pick them out and say, like, give me the real deal, like, what's going on here? So if you're treating your veterans the right way, they're going to bring in more people. And I always say when I was in Special Forces, I was typically the #1 doorman always, because I'm just crazy and I loved running towards the objective and kicking doors in. And, you know, when you get in, you're calling eagle, eagle, eagle in rooms you're communicating. So in a lot of ways, I see myself as that person who can kick in the door for veterans and then, you know, call eagle, let all the eagles in and let them do their thing. So if you're doing that, you're gonna, the investing and extraction is gonna work for you, but you have to invest first.
For the record, it sounds like you agree with me.
Did you say investing? We agree.
So we have a more important and we have a at least equally important. So there's at least some consensus. Those are great examples, and I love the reminder, and I'm glad you brought it up, the reminder about there's a lot of no-cost resources out there for us, and I would encourage people to seek those out, because it gives you the opportunity to take those resources and invest them in other ways. So thank you for bringing that up. Kate, I want to talk about Blackstone. I want to be careful. I don't want to put you on the spot. I know that Blackstone is not allowed to influence the makeup of its portfolio companies. So instead, I will ask you, Kate, how is Blackstone influencing the makeup of its portfolio companies?
Hopefully nobody's recording this. Look, there's so many ways we do it. I mean, Blackstone did have, prior to me getting there, they did have the rally cry of hiring 100,000 veterans across our portfolio, which was great because our companies knew we believed in it and, you know, wanted to make sure that cascaded into our companies. I think, you know, the statistics changes regularly, but if you take all of Blackstone's portfolio companies, we're the fourth largest company in the world. So imagine the impact we can have from a veteran's perspective and hiring veterans across our portfolio. Look, what I would say is there is no substitute for the power of a story. And I think sharing one veteran story and helping people understand the success of that individual and then giving access to the rest of the organization is so, so powerful. We also have a veteran mint program in Blackstone proper, which takes veterans on their way to get their MBA. We spend 10 weeks with them, teaching them, you know, our investment strategies, give them access to our portfolio. And these are some of, you know, the best and brightest veterans out there. And so our investors are seeing this talent and saying, holy cow, how do we bring them back after their MBA program? So we hire a pretty significant number of them. And then lastly, I just want to leave you with a pretty impactful story from our mint program that just happened. One of our mints, Laurentes, I was like, tell me about yourself. And he's like, oh man, you know, I grew up in St. Louis. I'm one of 5 kids. My brother has 5 children with 5 different women. My parents were factory workers. And I was like, well, how did you get to Navy? He said, well, you know, I was a pretty good athlete. I played football. I was getting ready to play basketball. I was really more interested in football, but somebody reached out to me and said, are you thinking about college? And he said, no. And he said, well, let me make a phone call for you. And made a phone call, got into the Naval Academy, was like top of his class. I mean, I hate that he went to the Naval Academy, beat us all 4 years that he was there. But it's the power of access. That's what I didn't appreciate when I was transitioning into the military. One phone call changed this kid's life forever. He's going to Wharton. He started on Monday. He will inevitably have a profound impact on the rest of his community. And so it's why I'm so passionate about this community and connecting, because without that, there are so many people that miss an opportunity to showcase what they can do. And veterans are the best and brightest. I mean, your story about mission accomplishment, right? Like I would give my soldiers a mission on deployment and I would be like, there's no way they're gonna get this done. And they'd come back and get it done. And I would think, I'm not gonna ask how. I'm just grateful for these folks for being so committed to understanding what success looks like and nailing it.
Kate, when we were discussing, I think last week, this panel, and you said something, and I wrote it down, and I want you to talk about it. You said quantifying hiring can be a dangerous proposition. What do you mean by that? Yeah,
look, I think it's great to have targets and hiring goals, right? It creates a sense of urgency to find diverse talent. But I also think it's dangerous because every individual is unique in what they want to accomplish and deliver and is passionate about. I think, and I think the idea of tokenism then exists, right? You got hired because you were a female. You got hired because you're a veteran. You got hired because you're part of an underrepresented group. Like I kind of alluded to this at UBS. I did not want to share my veteran status at UBS, and Jason harassed me. Literally, no, we're going to send it out to the veteran community. It's going to be great. And I thought, I want to be known for what I can deliver to UBS as Kate, not as Kate the veteran. That community did help accelerate my career growth. But I do think that putting a number as opposed to understand why you are hiring this resource, whether it be for technical capability, cultural fit, leadership competencies, is really important. And so I'm just always hesitant to put a target or a number. We need to have, 500 veterans at the end of this year. I also think it's dangerous for the veteran community because I wear veteran proudly, but I know that if I do something wrong as a veteran, the entire community gets a mark, right? And so I think we have an obligation as veterans when we stand up and we associate ourselves with this group to ensure we work harder, we deliver results faster, and continue to promote the best pieces of the community.
I'm glad you found a culture that you were comfortable self-identifying as a veteran. And so that brings me to Christy. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about inclusion and having a tribe for our veteran employees. Christy, share some thoughts. What do you think about how do we create an inclusive environment for our military-connected employees? And are there any things going on at Peraton that you want to share in that space?
Sure, absolutely. This is a big question, so I appreciate getting the opportunity to answer it. I'm going to break this into two areas. One is recruiting and what we're doing on that side to be inclusive and reach out to veterans. And the other side is, of course, retention, which we've already talked about both a little bit this morning. So first, with recruiting, the one thing I can say is do something different. Do something innovative, something new, to where we're going out there and we're meeting the veterans where they are. Some of the ideas that I really like, some of the things that I've seen, are building quizzes and matching tools that help veterans actually connect their skills and interests with types of career pathways that you have within your company, right? Another idea is having a large summit where those that are involved with your ERG can bring a couple of their veteran job seekers to come and connect and learn about your company and some of the job opportunities, right? Another thing that you can look to do is actually put together a training program if you don't already have one, some type of internship program like SkillBridge. That's a great opportunity for veterans and military members to be able to learn, right? So these are all some of the ideas that we can put into place. I also love it when companies give something without expecting anything back, right? So companies that actually get out there and put together training tools, whether or not that's just, someone in talent acquisition recording themselves explaining talent acquisition, right? Like something like Schoolhouse Rock, y'all remember that? I aged myself. But I'm a bill, right? I'm a resume. What happens? When I fire that thing off, whether or not I have a referral, right? Where does it go? Who does it connect with? What's the difference between a sourcer and a recruiter, right? What are the differences in those jobs, right? How do I make myself marketable? I would love for talent acquisition groups across all companies to start putting out those types of training materials, right? Something where veterans can learn. I remember thinking about these companies when I would go to hiring events, and typically there was an event the night before, and one company was hosting would do some type of training situation like that, right? Where we actually talk about resumes and how TA works, right? Talent acquisition, how that all works. And I remembered that company because of that, right? And went to their table because they gave something, okay? So that's on the recruiting side. On the retention side, ERGs, employee resource groups, what are we doing with those groups? Are they actively engaged, right, with all of our internal employees who are veterans, military spouses, et cetera, right? What are we doing to reach out with them, especially within that first year? That's critical to create connection. Do we have a sponsorship program where we link them up with another veteran? So if they have questions that maybe they're embarrassed about asking their direct supervisor, that they have a veteran that they can reach out to and be open with, right? So now on to my shameless plug, Peraton. Right? So we're doing several things at Peraton. We're always learning, so I want to put that out there, that we don't know everything, and we absolutely recognize that, and we want to continuously grow and learn. But some of the things that we put into place, we've grown our military hiring team, our recruiter team, from 1 to 3. This year, we're definitely investing to be able to grow and connect with more veterans. We've also grown our SkillBridge program. So we've done that over the last year, thanks to Brian Acton, who's leading that program for us, doing a great job. We also do a lot of personal connecting, individual connecting to help veterans and military members connect with jobs that they may be interested in. Instead of just routing them back to our careers webpage and to say, figure it out for yourself, schedule a 30-minute call where we can talk about some of the job opportunities. We also do a lot of group events. We go out to TAP offices to connect. We do podcasts, right? Some people have to be virtual if they're overseas, so we want to make sure that we can reach them with podcasts, right? So these are all some of the things that we're putting into place. We're also working on a Peraton veteran skills matching tool. So we are putting the effort into being able to do that because I think sometimes it's really tough to know some of the job titles out there, right? I remember coming out of the service and the only thing that I knew really to say was program manager or project manager. I can't tell you how many times I hear that, by the way. But there are so many awesome jobs that don't have manager in the title, right? So let's think about things like lead, associate, right? Something like coordinator, planner, planning. These types of words come up and hit our military, but they just don't know to search on them, right? So I encourage them to think about the things that they're interested in, the things that they love to do in the military, and search on those words, right? So searching on like coordination, partnership, analyzing, and then just see what comes up. So in those 30-minute individual meetings, sometimes I get on there and I search with them, right? So that's an educational point. Even if you're in talent acquisition, it's impossible to know at any moment all 3,000 jobs plus that are open. So veterans come with their with their resumes and they're like, all right, Christy, I'm ready. Find me a job. And I wish it was that easy, but what I can do is search with you. Tell me 3 things you're good at, 3 things you're really passionate about, and let's go from there, right? See how I can help. And I think the companies that take the time to do that really stand out in my mind as a candidate because they're going the extra mile instead of sending me back to the website, right? So the extra mile, I think, really, really sticks with me. Also, Peraton, we're duly involved with AWP. We love being involved with our corporate partnership in that way. So really love giving back to the community and connecting with other resources because sometimes we do run into a veteran or military situation where we need additional resources and help. So definitely grateful to be part of this organization as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. I think it's great that you get to scale a little bit and grow your team, and then it's exciting times. By the way, I'm declaring you winner of the panel for the Schoolhouse Rock reference. We have just the...
What? The panel's not over.
She crushed it.
Hold on.
You
Go
can't
Navy.
beat Schoolhouse Rock. You can't beat Schoolhouse
I'm
Rock.
not competitive at all.
No.
If I knew this was a competition,
Nope.
I might have come stronger with some...
Christy wins. So we have... We just have a couple of minutes, and I do want to get to the last question because we pulled it from the app, and I don't know if it was submitted by somebody physically here or somebody, one of our remote participants, but in the last couple of minutes, Ricky, the question that was asked was, what challenges do you see or have you experienced with employee engagement? So we invest in these programs to engage and retain our veterans so that they can thrive, but we can't get them to take advantage of those resources.
Yeah, I mean, I say the biggest thing for that is your CRGs, building that. And like at Bass Pro and other organizations that I've been at, I always say if you build it, they will come. But you have to be strategic with engagement, especially with veterans, because it has to be authentic. It has to be real. You can't just have a pizza party with veterans and get them together. It has to be something that's purpose-driven. And what I found too is engagement doesn't necessarily start with the veteran. It starts with the organization. So like when I went to Bass Pro, before we even talked about a CRG and getting veterans engaged, I met with the marketing team and I said, how do we reach our current veterans internally? How do we communicate to them? Is it monthly? Is it weekly? Let me figure that out. Then I met my second meeting, which you definitely have to do for employee engagement, is legal. I met with the attorneys and I said, what can I legally do? Like, what can I legally communicate? What can I legally spend on? Who can attend? Who can do what? What can they do? So I got all that information, and getting with stakeholders in your organization is the most important, because if you don't have buy-in from stakeholders, you're going to operate in a silo and you're not going to get anything done. And then you're going to be holding meetings and engagements with veterans that aren't authentic and real. So you have to get your stakeholders involved and then the purpose behind it. And then you either create the CRG, and a big point that I had was giving autonomy to other leaders. So I wanted other veterans to lead the CRG. Like the first one I teed up, but I wanted someone else to lead it because they have more time and more passion to do that. And what we did with ours was we wanted to gear it around how we're bringing our veterans into the organization. So we started a thing at Bass Pro where every veteran gets a bag with a hat, with their vest, and they get a battle buddy for 30 days in every single store. So they have a veteran battle buddy that they can talk to and navigate the organization with. So it started there. Second thing was hiring. So we would do veteran hiring events at the same time at all of our stores with our veterans, create that integration where they're running around the store with their vests. Hey, I'm a veteran, we're hiring, you need to come work with us, this is why. It starts there. Then the integration of meetings, all of that you're doing to keep them engaged and moving forward. And one example I'll share is we had in North Carolina, we bought a White River, the Marine boat factory. Johnny Morris had bought that to buy and build yachts. And this was in 2019. So we needed people to work on our assembly line there. So it's right by Camp Lejeune, and the HR leader there was a former Command Sergeant Major in the Marines. So I told him, let's do Skills Bridge. So we set up Skills Bridge, we set up employee engagement, and we had almost 10 Marines at one time in a 12-week program building boats, learning how to weld, learning how to do all these things, build a boat, and then we had some up to 16 weeks building yachts from start to finish. And it was just this big story that we shared that really created a lot of engagement and community around that. So I think it starts there at the community level too. So the two things would be get your stakeholders involved in the organization at the highest level possible. VPs, whoever they are, they need to be involved. And then engagement starts at the community level, at the store level, at the lowest level. Because if you're not reaching your hourly associates, you're all the way to the bottom of the organization, then you're not doing it right.
I know our time is up. This is not for the win, but I think this is really important. I also think it's really important to understand military life cycle, right? As a veteran, it is super clear how much time you're going to spend in a role, what the criteria is to get promoted, and the civilian world does not have that same transparency. And so what I would also, right, like 18 months out of the military, my first job, no one was telling me like if I was doing good, what my expectations were to be what success, and I started to panic thinking like, I must not be doing good, I have to go to the next organization, because you want to be successful, you want to know what good looks like. So I would also just say transparency around what success looks like, because the military is so used to having that clarity.
Thank you. Our time is up. We have to make like Jason and get off the X. But I do want to thank all of you. You could be a lot of different places doing a lot of different things, and you chose to be here with us. And so thank you. Together we can do better. Hopefully we've given you some nuggets to go back and make your piece of the world a little bit better place. And so please join me in thanking our panelists.